Hi, so now we're going to cover how to use the probe to better manage your physical and your virtual infrastructure in a Nimsoft environment with the SupernaNET.Converge probe. So we've already done the installation. That was the first video that was available. We now have our Vblock discovered. Over here on the left, we've got this Vblock discovered and the virtual machines. We can add more than one Vblock, but I'll walk through how to manage this one system. So if we want to expand the tree, you'll notice that we can actually see all the subcomponents underneath. I'll go through these in a bit more detail to explain what they mean. So here we've got the compute domain, the management domain, the network domain, racks, and storage. So within each of these areas, we can drill in and see the actual infrastructure and the devices all represented, and their status, their health check, and if they're green, yellow, or red. So I'll go through that in a second. Over here in this column, we've got the calculated status, which is the root cause engine that runs inside Vision and determines the health of a domain or a device based on the alarms and high availability design of a Vblock. So it gives you a quick view of how well your infrastructure is performing and if there's any critical issues. This is a test system, so as we go through this, you'll see we have lots of alarms for testing. Right now I've got all Vblocks highlighted, which means if I had more than one, all the virtual machines across my infrastructure and all Vblocks will be listed here. They of course have their name, the blade they're hosted on inside the Vblock, memory, CPU, and their status. So as we start to select objects, you can see that the screen will auto-populate and expand the tree to show you where in the infrastructure it's running. So in this case, it's found it running on this Vblock, on this chassis, on this blade, and of course you can see the other virtual machines that are also running on this blade. In the component view, it gives you another way to visualize and navigate the tree. In this case, we've selected this particular VM, so it filters the view, and now we're only focusing on this one device. Over here on the right, we get a bit more detail about that virtual machine, its operating system, its IP address if it's populated, which would require VMware tools. And from here we can actually get a good view of what's happening. If we switch to a different virtual machine, we can move around and navigate. In this case here we can see the IP address has been populated and it's Windows 2008 R2. Its current status is red. We can switch over to the alarm view, which gives you more details, but for now we'll just show how we can navigate the Vblock. So that's the compute domain. If I want to look into the network domain, of course can see the Ethernet and the Fire Channel view. Here we can see I've got some fabrics which have no alarms, and down here we have some issues. So I can move into the Nexus 5548, and I can zoom in on the different components. And you'll notice that my component view also updates to show the layer of the Vblock that I'm zooming in on. So we'll collapse that. Storage, in this case we've got Vmax based storage, so that tells you what's happening in the storage domain. And then the AMP, which of course where we run all the virtual machines to manage the Vblock. We have a few extra here, but as you can see we can zoom in to see how our management layer is performing, if there's any issues that need to be addressed to manage the environment. Collapse that. So this is a rolled up view, so anywhere there's an alarm at lower layers, it'll turn into a higher layer alarm. So here we can see this overall status for this Vblock is critical because we have errors throughout. So it's very quick and easy to see if you've got multiple Vblocks listed, which ones have issues. Compliance is also another capability within the Vision.io software stack. Here we've got some future use functions, but the release view here is the certification matrix, and it's got the ability to run various baseline comparisons, or profiles as they're called. And these, of course, are measured against the actual infrastructure, software and firmware, to see how closely you align to a baseline. Now, we've set this up to show an extreme example where it's well below baseline, but the goal here is that you could quickly assess, do you need to do some upgrades to different components? If it's determined that you need to upgrade based on the profile analysis, which also runs on a daily basis, here we've got the results. By clicking on the extended properties, this will go and retrieve the 80% that needs to be addressed, which effectively means different components that failed the baseline test. So you can actually navigate through this and review all the components. This information is stored on the Vision virtual machine, so it can be retrieved at a later time. Just click through some areas here just to give some examples. Quite a lot of detail in here. This, of course, could be used to work with VC to get your Vblock updated to the right release levels. So here we are running a baseline check against the 351 certification matrix. And this gives you obviously a lot of detail here about the components and what versions they should be at. So go ahead and collapse that. So now we'll switch over to the alarm view. Select our Vblock. And here you can see various alarms across the infrastructure. These are, of course, test alarms that we've been using.